Welcome back, Prayer Root community. So glad you're joining us for this special explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a topic that honestly completely rewrites the rules of human nature. We're going to look at how Jesus takes one of our absolute hardest, most resisted human struggles and just completely shifts us away from our own limitations and straight into his boundless divine grace. We're talking about forgiveness, of course. And really, we're looking at exactly how Christ acts as the ultimate game changer in our daily lives. I've got to say, I am just so incredibly blessed to be the one guiding you through this today. As the ministry head here at Prayer Root, I hold so deeply to our core mission, which is beautifully captured right in our slogan, rooted in prayer, rejoicing in Christ. So think of this explainer as a reverent, really heartfelt tribute to Christ's game-changing love. By the time we wrap up, my hope is that you'll see his teachings not just as these distant historical events, but as a very real blueprint for the highest pinnacle of spiritual living. Let's just start right out of the gate with a hard truth from a fellow believer named Maya. She said, "I don't know how to forgive." This was just a completely raw admission she made when her faith mentor asked about her struggles. And wow, doesn't that just perfectly capture a universal human reality? Forgiveness is so tangled up with this stress, deep wounds, anger, and sometimes even that strong pull for vengeance. As humans, it's wild. We are so quick to embrace God's mercy for ourselves, right? But extending that exact same true forgiveness to others, that totally defies our most basic protective instincts. It's puzzling, it's incredibly difficult. But as you'll see, Jesus takes this super complicated concept and makes it profoundly, beautifully simple. Okay, let's jump right into point number 1, indefinite and limitless. We find this first massive shift in how Jesus reshaped mercy over in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 18. And it starts with this bold, highly relatable question from the Apostle Peter. Peter approaches Jesus, and he basically wants to know exactly where the boundary lines of forgiveness are drawn. The contrast here between our human calculation and divine expansiveness is just stunning. Peter asks, "Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times?" Now, here's the thing. Peter actually thought he was being incredibly generous here, because in Jewish tradition, the number 7 represented completion and perfection. To him, that was the ultimate standard of grace. But Jesus takes that standard and completely blows it past human calculation, replying, "I tell you, not 7 times, but 70 times 7. So do the math, and we get this number, 490. But listen, Jesus wasn't handing Peter a magical tally or some literal mathematical limit. He absolutely wasn't telling Peter, "Hey, keep a scorecard and just unleash all your anger on offense number 491. No way. Instead, Jesus was fundamentally breaking that deeply ingrained human instinct of keeping score. He was teaching that forgiveness must be indefinite. It just doesn't operate on a numerical scale, guys. It's meant to be a continuous, limitless way of life. Moving right along to section 2, transforming the heart. Over in Luke 15, Jesus offers us another totally powerful lesson through the parable of the prodigal son. We all know the story, right? The younger son recklessly squanders his inheritance, comes back in total shame, and the father just welcomes him with wide open arms. But then there's the older son. He's obedient, he's faithful, and he is feeling completely betrayed by this. Honestly, it is so easy to sympathize with that resentful, score-keeping older brother. Like, why should the reckless one get a massive celebration while the faithful one is left questioning his own worth? But watch what happens when we read that story, not from the older brother's perspective, but through the father's eyes. Everything changes. All that resentment just fades into this vast, peaceful expanse of love. From the father's perspective, there is absolutely zero focus on the younger son's failure and zero focus on the older son's resentment. His heart is focused entirely on embracing a lost child who finally came home. And that is exactly how Jesus wants us to forgive. Not as judges holding a clipboard and a scorecard, but as people who love deeply enough to simply let it go. All right, part 3, reflection before judgment. Let's look chronologically at John chapter 8 to see how this all builds. Some religious leaders literally drag a woman caught in adultery right in front of Jesus. And their goal is twofold here. They want to condemn her under their really rigid law, and they want to test Jesus, basically hoping he'll contradict that law and completely discredit himself. The tension in this moment, it is incredibly heavy. You can almost feel it. But instead of answering their frantic demands or falling into their legal trap, Jesus responds with just a single, profound statement. He says, "Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." I mean, just feel the weight of that for a second. He completely turns the mirror back on them. With that one single sentence, he convicts the accusers of their own hidden imperfections. And then, one by one, starting with the oldest, they just drop their stones and walk away. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is this: true forgiveness starts when we recognize our own need for it. Jesus wasn't just showing this extraordinary mercy to the woman in that moment. He was laying down a foundational truth for every single one of us. Before we can righteously judge or condemn anyone else, Christ is calling us to examine our own hearts. We literally have to embrace our own desperate need for his mercy before we can ever effectively extend it to someone else. Which brings us to number 4, the ultimate game changer. When we step back and bring these magnificent biblical encounters all together, we see exactly why Jesus completely changed the conversation around forgiveness. He stepped into a world that operated strictly on an eye for an eye, a world totally obsessed with worthiness and vengeance, and he just replaced it all with a rhythm of grace. Step 1, he taught it. He totally shattered Peter's standard of 7 times with this indefinite call to love. Step 2, he illustrated it. He gave us that breathtaking image of the prodigal son's father. And step 3, he lived it. Jesus didn't just issue these commands from afar like some distant manager. He made forgiveness a daily practice, ultimately forgiving the very people who betrayed him, the ones who denied him, and yes, even the ones who nailed him to a cross. And folks, this leads us to the ultimate paradigm shift of our faith. Jesus isn't just the game changer because he altered some ancient rules. He is the game changer because he gave us the ultimate tool for pinnacle living. Through him, we learn that forgiveness is actually not about the other person's worthiness at all. It's about setting our own hearts free. It completely removes those heavy, exhausting chains of bitterness and allows us to live in true spiritual freedom. He didn't just change the concept of forgiveness, he changed us. So I want to leave you with this final, really reverent question to ponder today. Will you let him set your heart free? I'm inviting everyone right here in our Prayer Root community to take this challenge to heart this week. Let's stop keeping score. Let's start looking at people through the Father's eyes, reflect on your own need for grace, and just step right into that limitless freedom that Christ offers us. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay rooted in prayer, keep rejoicing in Christ, and I will see you next time.